welcome back to another episode of su-re.community. Here with my right, I have Takeshi Takama, professor, CEO, and and founder of su-re.co. And to my left is our guest for today, Professor Alexandros Gasparatos.
Hello, nice to see you.
And he's from Tokyo University. So, let's begin. Can you explain to us a bit more about your background and your role in Tokyo University?
I'm an associate professor at the Institute for Global Initiatives. It is an independent institute within the University of Tokyo. Our main research focuses on how to create future societies, how to design different interventions to increase the sustainability of future societies. And we are focusing a lot on research related to the Sustainable Development Goals. My background is on ecological economics and sustainability science. I'm very interested into conducting research on how to assess sustainability impacts or ecosystem services impacts of different projects, policies and programs. I usually work in developing countries, especially Africa. My main research has been on agricultural sustainability, especially issues related to bioenergy. But I have worked on all sorts of social ecological systems in Africa, Asia, and a little bit in the Americas.
All right. So, with that, with your academic background, could you explain a little bit about your research collaboration with TAC over the past few years?
As I said, one of my major research lines has been the impacts of bioenergy. So, apart from impacts, another important element that we're trying to study is the adoption of different bioenergy technologies. So we collaborated with Takeshi on a couple of projects trying to understand the different factors that are affecting the adoption of clean cook stoves in Kenya and in Malawi. So Takeshi is an expert on the use of choice experiments. So his expertise was very good on the type of projects that we have been working on. So we tried to integrate his experience, trying to understand the different factors that clean cook stoves, let's say, consumers are considering when they're adopting clean cook stoves. Some of the factors that we explored was stove price, fuel price, impact on deforestation, and impact on smoke. And we used very different, let's say, sampling strategies. In Malawi, it was in an urban context, so it was around Lilongwe, in high density and low density areas. But in Kenya, it was transect approach, starting from a very big forest, so an area of high, let's say, biomass availability, moving towards the interior where you are having totally different market situation.
I see. Do you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I think this research was very innovative. The technique we use is normally used for the market research. But at the end, this same thing is in developing countries. So by understanding what kind of attribute or characteristic farmers consider to choose a stove, we can design the stove or even project fit for their purpose. And this kind of study has not been done many places in developing countries.
So could you maybe explain a bit about the results of the research and the significance of it? Or whoever?
Okay, so we identified the relative importance of the different factors that might be driving the adoption of a stove. Obviously, prices. The cost of fuel and the cost of stove rate very highly. However, if you start disaggregating the respondents, let's say by area of location, their location compared to the, let's say, available biomass or their socioeconomic status, you start seeing relatively different results. For example, one of the things that stuck out was that some of the better off households in Malawi were considering impact on deforestation quite highly in the way they are choosing stoves. These are very disaggregated findings that basically can help inform a little bit more targeted stove dissemination campaigns. We are still finalizing the analysis of the results from Kenya, but there you are seeing that differential trade-offs along a gradient from areas of high biomass availability, which suggests that if you're having, let's say, stove promotion campaigns that follow exactly the same approach in a wider landscape, they might not be successfully persuading, let's say, certain consumers to adopt. So we are making a case that maybe there is a need for specially disaggregated or differentiated stove dissemination approaches because of the different characteristics that consumers are taking into consideration across a gradient of biomass availability.
Do you have anything to add?
Yeah. The one of the key part of this assessment is this assessment can evaluate quantitatively how much one attribute more important than another, or between society, how much the impact is different. I think, for example, the deforestation between the poor family and the middle class family, I think impact of the deforestation is almost, I think, 5 times. So poor people care like only 1/5 of what middle income people care about deforestation. So if you campaigning deforestation for the poor people, it's not so effective. And also this study can tell that how much this is not effective or effective. So this is a new part of this kind of assessment.
And so you think these method is not prevalent yet?
Sorry.
This type of research.
Yeah, it's quite difficult assessment. It's not not just asking like how you think. So we usually say this is between wishing list and shopping list. I mean, wishing list, this create a constraint. So we kind of experiment doing in the field. So this has to have a specific training to design this kind of research. So unfortunately, there isn't many application in the developing country, but hopefully with the computational technology, we can do more research, more research like this.
All right.
Yeah.
Anything to add?
No, I think Takeshi covered very well.
Okay. Well, with these experiences, it seems like you both are very experienced in on the field research. Now I want to talk about the educational collaboration you have with SU-RE.co, because today you are here this week in Bali also with Tokyo University students. Can you explain a bit on what this educational setting is and the conception of it? Yeah.
So, University of Tokyo is, like most universities, designed across traditional disciplines. It's not very common to have interdisciplinary research programs, and especially at the undergraduate level. Fortunately enough, the University of Tokyo has decided to create undergraduate interdepartmental program that allows students from all sorts of departments ranging from medicine to engineering to sociology to literature to attend and learn how to design research projects. So it is one of the very few interdisciplinary courses provided by the University of Tokyo, and I'm one of the mentors of this program. So each year we are bringing a team of students here in Bali in order to complement what we have been teaching them for pretty much about 1 year in the classroom. We have been teaching them over this year how to conceptualize research projects, how to try to design research questions, especially with a focus on sustainability. And we spent about 2 weeks in Bali collecting data for the research they have designed. So right now they are at, let's say, the tail end of this exercise. They have been conducting quite a lot of interviews with different stakeholders in Bali. Their focus this year is agriculture, especially rice agriculture in the Subaks and the declining rice agriculture, and waste management issues in Bali. So both teams have designed their own research, and through su-re.co we are gaining access to different stakeholders around here. We are working very closely with the personnel of your organization in order to collect this data and learn by talking to these people. And this is an excellent opportunity for the students because they get out of the classroom. It's very unusual for them at the undergraduate level to be able to leave the classroom and do research on the ground in an interdisciplinary manner and in a group level. Usually they work individually. So it is a very big game change for them. And I think the help of su-re.co has been immense because you have really good experience through educational programs, but also working with different stakeholders in Bali and other parts of the world.
Okay, so Tak, maybe you want to elaborate a bit on this program that you sort of created, inviting students. What was how significant do you think this type of educational setting is compared to the traditional?
Yeah, I mean the program itself is a brainchild of the Alex,
Right.
but I've been working on this think do be kind of concept. My background is a researcher. I'm still consider as myself as a researcher, but I specifically more desktop kind of researcher. I was programmer. I was modeler before, but every time I make a model and check a result, there is some kind of weird result. So I asked to ask a project team, can I actually see the field? Then every time I go to the field, I see some assumption that doesn't valid. So so it's important to see the reality. So this is what student coming here, intern coming here to experience. I mean, it's very important to understand the theoretical discussion. I mean, that makes us to do the deep study, deep research, very tangible, concrete, meaningful solution. However, at the same time, we need to have a reflection. Some solution cannot apply to the field for some more practical reason. We have to consider.
So you think being in a classroom is not enough to fully understand the whole situation of a problem?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, education sector need to change. I mean, this is for sure. I mean, yeah, I do not deny the classroom kind of education, but in addition to that, if you want to distinguish yourself, there's lots of opportunity nowadays, and and there's so many solutions. So if you want to propose better solution, I think you can go beyond the classroom education, and the product of the school, as an intelligent person, school can create the more solution-oriented person through the education together with the field work.
Okay. Alex, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I find them rather complementary. So, for example, in order to go to the field, you have to have a very, very good understanding of what has been written, what has been researched, what are the different methodological tools, what are the different discourses that you can use to frame your research. All of this is really, really important and has to be done in the classroom because you have the time to immerse yourself, to understand what different disciplines basically have been producing. But you have to go beyond that. For better or worse, sustainability is a multidimensional concept, and it is geared towards solutions and also geared towards actual questions. So yes, you can spend a lot of time in the classroom, you can learn a lot of things that are important, but eventually sustainability research, the type of research that we're involved, especially with the students at the University of Tokyo, is geared towards sustainability solutions. So this has to be done in a transdisciplinary manner. So you have to go outside, you have to meet stakeholders to understand their needs, to understand the challenges that they're facing, and after reading all the things that you have read and you have been exposing yourself in the classroom, you can think on your feet to identify possible solutions or possible ways forward, or even possible questions that you never thought that existed. So I see them as rather complementary, especially when it comes to the field of sustainability. And this is extremely valuable to our students because it is, I think, for most of them, It is the first time to get outside of the classroom. So yes, we have spent a lot of time discussing theoretically about how to frame a research, but it's a totally different thing to come and try to conduct an interview in a language that you're not fluent. So you have to start thinking of how do I engage with other persons. So there are all these other things that are outside the classroom that is really, really important for students to be exposed during on-the-ground fieldwork, and especially collaboration with organizations that, like su-re.co. We're academic organizations, we write papers. We're very interested in identifying knowledge, disseminating knowledge, and possibly designing solutions, but it is our interaction with other organizations like su-re.co that we are exposed to different ways of working and different ways of viewing the world that can enhance, the quality of the research that we are doing.
Okay. All right. You want to add?
Yeah, actually, this also connect to how we do research as well, like this cooking stove project. Actually, I wrote a book, with the CI, Stockholm Environment Institute, about the title was "Do African Farmer Buy Clean Cooking Stove?" The answer is actually no, because there's many good initiatives creating clean cooking stove, but they do not consider what those African farmers want. So perfect clean cooking stove is not what they want. So we need to consider like price, usability, other aspect. So this kind of aspect you can only see in the field. Yeah, so we use rather complex approach methodology to assess, and this has strong theoretical background as well, but which is combined with a field research. Then we get the result which we can actually implement it by practitioner. So we need both. That's the reason I have this organization, Think Do Be Tank.
Well said. Do we need a break? Is the camera okay? Yeah. Okay. So to close this discussion off, I'd like to talk about how nowadays the younger generations are getting more and more involved in, or are more willing and wanting to get involved with tackling big issues such as climate change. And while being so young and inexperienced, how do you think they should approach tackling such big problems? What sort of educational setting should they be in? And yeah, maybe you can say.
So I will echo exactly what I said earlier. It has to start with a very good reading of the actual issues, whether it is climate change or sustainability or food security or deforestation or the interlinkages of these things. So young researchers, young students should spend a lot of time reading, identifying what they are passionate in. There is a lot of that has been written, there is a lot that is being done currently, so there is no point replicating what has been done. At the same time, there are huge research gaps, whether we're talking about actual phenomena, for example, how some of these impacts intersect, or research gaps in specific areas. For example, I work a lot in Africa. We have very big research gaps for many of these issues in Africa, and definitely other developing contexts. So I would say, it should be some sort of combination of reading a lot, understanding what is out there, understanding what are the tools and where your passion lies. Once you understand where your passion is lying, then you can decide what is the right path for you. Whether it is to work to continue in research, or it is to work in a company, or it is to work for an NGO, or to move in a specific part of the world. So all of these are complementary. Once you arrive you start working on the ground, on the field, then you have to keep an open mind Okay, because it is very often that we see that our initial thoughts, no matter how well mannered might have been, might be contradicting local contexts. So we might be thinking that a phenomenon or a certain value might be prevalent in a local context, but that might not be the case when you go and you talk to the people there or you get a much broader view. So there are basically three things, if I have to summarize. Read a lot to find your passion, decide what is the right path for you, and immerse yourself on the ground, and have an open mind, because it is very often that your preconceptions are going to be challenged.
Well said. Do you have anything to add to that?
Actually, this thing could do be, right?
Right.
Yes. So I think this kind of thought, I think, won't change. I think any successful research or successful education has to have a deep thinking and actually do and internalize yourself. Having said that, I think the magnitude of this movement might have been changed recently, especially like somehow climate change or environment movement. Young people have a bigger voice and has a lot of resource and support to actually implement what you want. Even Bali has for example, bye-bye plastic. So this is done by studied as a 10 years old to children. So now I think if you, after you study what you are passionate, now you can actually implement with the support of the great organization. So let's do it.
Well said. Anything else to add? I think that was closed off perfectly. To recap, today we discussed a lot about how Professor Alex over here had notable research collaborations, specifically in a very particular research that generates value to properly intervene behavior, research that is both on-field and theoretical, that could provide the appropriate solutions. And then we connected that to the educational setting we have at the moment, which is a combination of both practical and theoretical. We talked about the importance of both and how the younger generations can be involved. Having said that, especially based on the su-re.co's think, do, be principle and model. So, thank you very much, Alex.
Thank you.
And stay tuned for more episodes of su-re Community.
Thank you for watching this video. If you want to give a suggestion on sustainability issues or guests we should interview, please do so on the comment section below or through our social media. If you like this kind of content, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and click the notification icon so you can get notification when we post new videos. We also sell coffee and chocolate to support sustainability issue, and you can buy them on the Tokopedia linked below. Thank you!